Mr. Adrian lived in a world of comfort. His house was tall, bright, and filled with silence. Expensive walls, wide windows, and clean marble floors. Everything showed wealth. But inside the heart of this rich man there was a gap. His wife had passed years ago, leaving him alone with his young son, Ethan. Adrian loved his son deeply, but work and sorrow kept him busy. He tried to give Ethan everything: books, toys, teachers, but still something always felt missing. One quiet evening, Adrian returned home earlier than usual. The sun was setting, spreading orange light over the garden. Normally, Ethan would be inside, maybe drawing or reading. But today the sound of laughter reached Adrian's ears. It came from the backyard. His son was speaking to someone, but the voice answering him was strange. Soft, careful, almost musical. Adrian frowned. Who could be with Ethan at this hour? He stepped silently to the garden, curious and a little worried. As he moved closer, the scene made him freeze. There, under the old oak tree, sat his son. Beside him on the grass was a thin figure, a girl. She looked young, maybe not older than 16. Her clothes were torn, her hair messy. She seemed poor, maybe homeless. But what struck Adrian most was her face. Her skin had a faint silver glow as if touched by moonlight. And her eyes. Large, bright, not the eyes of any human he had ever seen. They shone softly, almost like stars. Adrian's heart jumped. He thought for a moment that his eyes were lying. But no, the girl was not normal. She was not from here. Still, Ethan sat happily with her, no fear at all. The boy held a stick and scratched strange shapes into the soil. Circles, triangles, lines that curved in odd ways. The girl watched carefully and corrected him, whispering in her calm, melodic voice. "Not like this." "Like this," she said, and her thin finger drew another symbol. Ethan laughed and tried again, copying her. Adrian could not move. His son was learning. But learning what? These were not letters from school. They were not English, not any language he knew. They looked alien. The girl spoke gently, and Ethan listened as if she were the best teacher in the world. A strange mix of feelings rushed through Adrian. Fear, anger, confusion. Who was this girl? How had she entered his garden, his safe home? And more important, what was she doing with his son? He took one step forward, his shoe pressing against the grass. The girl's ears twitched. She turned her head quickly. For a moment, her glowing eyes locked with his. Adrian felt a shiver. It was like looking into the night sky itself, endless, secret, and powerful. The girl's body stiffened. She grabbed Ethan's hand and whispered something fast in a language he did not understand. Her voice shook with fear. Ethan turned to see his father, his face full of innocence and joy. "Dad," Ethan shouted happily. "Look! She's teaching me new words. Isn't it amazing?" Adrian forced himself to step closer, keeping his eyes on the strange girl. She pulled back a little, as if ready to run. She looked frightened, like an animal hiding from hunters. Her thin frame trembled, but she did not let go of Ethan's hand. Adrian spoke slowly, his voice calm but heavy. "Who are you?" he asked. "Why are you here?" For a moment there was silence. The girl lowered her head, her messy hair falling forward. She whispered so softly Adrian almost missed it. If they know I am here, they will come, please. Don't let them find me." Her words were like a puzzle, confusing yet filled with danger. Adrian's chest tightened. "They will come? Who?" His mind filled with questions. Before he could speak again, Ethan jumped in. "Dad, she's nice. She showed me things I never saw before. She knows secrets. Don't be angry. Please don't send her away." The boy's voice was full of trust, full of belief. Adrian looked at his son's bright face, then at the trembling girl. His fear grew stronger. He was a father, his duty was to protect Ethan, but from what? From this girl or from something chasing her? The evening breeze grew colder. The garden, once peaceful, now felt strange, almost dangerous. The girl's glowing eyes lifted once more to Adrian. This time he saw something else in them. Not only fear, but also deep sadness. She looked like someone who had lost everything. Adrian's thoughts raced. A homeless girl was one thing. But a homeless alien? His mind said she was dangerous. His heart whispered something else. She saved your son from loneliness, even if just for a moment. He took a deep breath. The world around him felt heavier, as if the night itself was waiting for his choice. And so, in that garden, under the fading light of the sun, a strange meeting began. A meeting that would change Adrian's life. his son's life, and perhaps much more than he could ever imagine. The garden was quiet again. The only sound was the soft rustle of leaves. Mr. Adrian stood a few steps away, watching carefully. His son Ethan sat cross-legged on the grass, holding a stick like a pencil. The strange girl, her name still unknown, watched him with patient eyes. At first, Adrian thought of sending her away. His rich home, his safe life did not allow strangers, much less a girl who looked different. But something stopped him. Maybe it was the way she gently guided Ethan's hand. Maybe it was the way Ethan's eyes sparkled with joy, brighter than Adrian had seen in years. The girl whispered again. Her voice was soft, almost like music. She drew a pattern in the dirt, curved lines that bent into a spiral with dots at each corner. Ethan copied it carefully. She leaned forward, corrected one line, then smiled. It was a small smile, but real. Adrian narrowed his eyes. Those marks were no child's game. They looked like symbols, almost like instructions. Each line seemed to carry meaning. The girl spoke quietly, her words unfamiliar. It was not English. It was not French, Spanish, or any language Adrian knew. It was something alien, yet Ethan followed as if it was the most natural thing in the world. Good, she whispered. You learn fast. Adrian's heart jumped at her accent. It was gentle but heavy, like someone who had traveled far, far away. He could not hold his silence anymore. What are you teaching him? Adrian asked firmly. The girl froze. Her glowing eyes darted toward him. For a moment, Adrian thought she might run, but then she sighed as if tired of hiding. I teach him words, she said slowly, choosing each word with care. Words from the stars. Ethan looked up proudly. Dad, she says these words are older than Earth. Isn't that cool? Adrian clenched his jaw. Words from the stars? What did that even mean? He stepped closer, lowering his voice. Why my son? Why are you teaching him? The girl hesitated. Her thin hands trembled. Then she whispered, Because children listen with open hearts. Adults do not. Her words struck him like a stone. Adrian wanted to deny it, but he couldn't. He himself had stopped listening to dreams long ago. His life was numbers, contracts, business dinners. He had built walls of gold around himself, but his son still believed in magic. Ethan drew another symbol in the dirt. The girl nodded. Good, she said again. This means safe. Adrian stared. Safe, he felt the opposite. He felt danger closing in. He glanced around the garden, suddenly aware of the shadows stretching longer with the fading sun. Finally, he asked the question burning inside him. Who are you? The girl lowered her head. Her messy hair hid part of her glowing face. She whispered a name so soft he barely heard it. Lyra, Adrian repeated it. Lyra. The name felt strange on his tongue, yet familiar as if it belonged to the stars she spoke of. Lyra looked up. For a brief second, Adrian saw pain in her eyes, deep and old. I should not be here, she said. But I have nowhere else. Her words carried weight. Adrian wanted to ask more, but Ethan spoke first. Dad, she's nice. She's my friend. Don't send her away. Adrian's chest tightened. Ethan rarely called anyone a friend. Tutors came and went, but none stayed. His son was lonely. And this strange girl, this alien girl, had filled that emptiness in just one evening. But still, danger lurked. Adrian saw it in Lyra's trembling hands, in the way her eyes scanned the garden as if expecting something to appear at any moment. They are looking for me, Lyra whispered suddenly, her voice breaking. If they find me here, you will all be in danger. Adrian stiffened. Who is they? She shook her head. Hunters. The word was sharp, filled with fear. I escaped, but they do not stop. They never stop. Ethan's hand slipped into hers. Don't be scared, he said softly. My dad is strong. He'll protect us. Adrian's heart pounded. Strong? He was just a man, a father, not a soldier. But looking at his son's hopeful face, he realized he could not simply push this girl away. Not yet. The night air grew colder. A dog barked far in the distance. Adrian felt unease crawl over him. He turned back toward the mansion. Come inside, he said finally. His voice was firm but not unkind. Lyra's eyes widened. Inside? Yes, Adrian replied. If what you say is true, you can't stay out here. It's too dangerous. For a moment she hesitated. Then slowly she stood. Her movements were weak, almost fragile. She followed Ethan toward the house, but her glowing eyes never stopped scanning the shadows. As they entered the mansion, Adrian felt the weight of his decision. A stranger, an alien now inside his home. It was madness. But something inside told him this was only the beginning. The lesson in the garden was over, but the real lesson, the one that would test his courage, his loyalty, and his very humanity, was about to begin. Inside the grand mansion, silence grew heavy. The tall walls, polished floors, and golden lights could not hide the tension that walked in with them. Adrian closed the door firmly, locking it, his heart still racing. His son Ethan ran ahead, pulling Lyra by the hand as if she were a long-lost sister. The alien girl moved slowly, her tired body shaking a little with every step. Adrian's mind spun like a storm. He was a wealthy man used to solving problems with money, power, and influence, but this, no amount of wealth could explain the glowing eyes of the girl now sitting at his kitchen table. No contract could protect him from the words she had whispered earlier. Hunters. Ethan climbed onto a chair, smiling brightly. "Dad, can she stay here?" "Just for a while." Adrian's mouth opened, but no answer came. He looked at Lyra. Her head was lowered, her thin fingers wrapped around a glass of water Ethan had given her. She drank slowly as if each drop was precious. She looked fragile, yet the fear in her eyes was not small. It was the fear of someone who had seen too much, lost too much. Adrian sat across from her. His voice was firm, though his heart was not. "I need the truth." "Who are you, really? Why are you here?" Lyra's lips trembled. For a long moment she stayed silent. Then she spoke softly, each word heavy with sorrow. "I was a student. Far from here. They wanted me to serve, to obey without question. But I refused. So they marked me as a traitor. I ran. I thought I could hide on this world. But they are coming." Her words sank into Adrian like ice. Far from here. He had guessed it, but hearing it aloud shook him deeply. She was not just different, she was from the stars. Ethan leaned forward, his eyes wide. "She's like a space traveler, Dad." "That's amazing." Adrian forced a bitter smile. Amazing? Or dangerous? The dilemma tore inside him. On one side stood his son's happiness, glowing brighter than it had in months. On the other stood danger, unknown, possibly deadly. He imagined the newspapers, the police, the government. If they found out he was hiding an alien, his life would shatter. His fortune, his reputation, his safety, all gone. He imagined men in black suits taking his son away, questioning him, locking Lyra in some cold lab. His stomach twisted, but then he looked at Ethan's face. The boy was alive with wonder. His son, who often sat alone in silence, now laughed, now asked questions, now held a friend's hand without fear. Could he destroy that with a single command? Lyra broke the silence. "I can leave if you want. I don't want to bring danger to your home. I know what it means to be hunted. I don't want you to suffer because of me." Her voice was honest. She was ready to run even in her weak state. She expected rejection. It was written in her sad eyes. Adrian leaned back, rubbing his temples. He was torn between logic and heart. Logic screamed, "Send her away. Protect your son. Protect yourself." But his heart whispered, "She is alone. She needs help. And Ethan needs her too." His thoughts were interrupted by a faint sound outside, tires crunching on gravel. A car slowing near the gate. Adrian stiffened. He walked quickly to the window and peeked through the curtains. A dark vehicle lingered, headlights off. After a moment, it rolled away into the night. Adrian's blood ran cold. Was it nothing? Or was it the beginning? He turned back to the table. Lyra was staring at the floor, her body tense. She had felt it too. "They are searching," she whispered. Adrian clenched his fists. This was no longer a simple matter of kindness. This was danger pressing against his very gates. He looked at his son, who clung to Lyra's hand as if letting go would break him. "Dad, please," Ethan said softly. "Don't make her leave." The words stabbed Adrian's heart. His son had already chosen. But could he, a father, risk it? The mansion felt smaller, the golden lights dimmer. Every choice looked heavy, every path filled with risk. If he sent her away, he might protect his son from the hunters, but he would crush Ethan's trust, his joy. If he let her stay, danger would surely come knocking, but perhaps for once his son would not be so alone. Adrian closed his eyes. He saw his wife's face in memory, her gentle smile. She had always told him, "A father's duty is not only to protect, but to guide with love." When he opened his eyes again, he saw Ethan's small hand gripping Lyra's thin one. He saw fear in Lyra's glowing eyes, but also hope. Adrian took a deep breath. His decision was not yet spoken, but he knew one thing. No matter what he chose, nothing in his life would ever be the same again. And outside, in the deep shadows beyond his gate, unseen eyes watched, waiting for a sign. The mansion was never truly quiet again after that night. Adrian tried to go about his routine. Business calls, meetings, papers on his desk, all the things that once controlled his life. But now every sound outside pulled his attention. The bark of a stray dog, the faint hum of an engine passing by. Even the whisper of wind against the windows felt heavier, sharper, like a warning. Ethan noticed too, though not in the same way. For him it was excitement. Each day he rushed to the garden to meet Lyra. She taught him strange shapes and strange sounds, each symbol carrying meaning. Sometimes she spoke of stars, sometimes of numbers that bent in impossible ways. Ethan laughed, curious, learning faster than ever. But Lyra was never fully calm. Her glowing eyes often darted toward the windows, scanning shadows. She never sat with her back to the door. When a car passed too slowly on the road outside, she froze, her thin body tense as a bowstring. Adrian saw it all, and the fear in her eyes began to crawl into his own heart. One evening, Adrian sat alone in his study. The fire burned low, but warmth did not comfort him. Through the large glass windows, he saw the night stretching wide. Then headlights. A car slowed near his front gate. His chest tightened. It didn't stop. It moved past, but too slow, as if watching. Adrian stood. He moved quietly through the hall and checked the locks on every door. For the first time in years, he felt like a prisoner inside his own fortress. Later that night, when he checked on Ethan, he found Lyra sitting beside the boy's bed. She wasn't sleeping. She sat perfectly still, her glowing eyes fixed on the window. Adrian stepped inside quietly. "You don't rest," he said. Lyra turned her head. "I cannot." "They search at night." Adrian's throat tightened. "These hunters, how will they find you?" Her lips trembled. "They can smell fear. They track thoughts. They know when someone is hiding something." He frowned. "That's impossible." Lyra looked away. "Many things are impossible until they arrive at your door." The next morning, Adrian noticed new signs. Footprints near the back gate. Not his, not Ethan's, too large, too deep. The security cameras flickered strangely during the night. One showed static for almost an hour. When Adrian replayed the footage, he thought he saw a figure, tall, dark, moving too smoothly, almost gliding. But the image was gone in a blink. He felt his stomach twist. Someone or something was near, watching, waiting. He called for extra guards, but Lyra shook her head. "They will not help," she whispered. "The hunters are not like your kind. They wear faces that look human, but they are not. They blend, they lie. You will never know who is friend, who is foe." Adrian felt trapped. Every choice was poison. Guards might be useless. Police would laugh at him, or worse, expose Lyra. Yet doing nothing meant danger creeping closer each night. One afternoon, Ethan sat at the table with Lyra. She drew a symbol on paper, a triangle with circles inside. "What does it mean?" Ethan asked. Lyra hesitated, then said softly, "It means home." Adrian watched from the doorway. The word hit him harder than expected. Home. He had built a house of wealth, yet here was this girl, hunted and broken, speaking of home as if it was something far away, forever lost. Suddenly, a noise cut through the moment, a knock on the front door. Loud. Too loud. Adrian stiffened. Lyra's glowing eyes widened in terror. She whispered fast in her strange language, pulling Ethan close to her. Adrian raised a hand. "Stay here." He moved toward the door, his heart pounding. Another knock. Firm. Demanding. When Adrian opened it, two men stood outside. Dark suits, polite smiles. Too polite. One spoke. "Good evening, sir. We're from the Neighborhood Security Committee. There have been reports. Strange lights in the area. We're checking every home." Adrian's instincts screamed. Their eyes too sharp. Their movements too smooth. He forced a calm smile. "I've seen nothing. Good night." He closed the door firmly before they could say more. When he turned back, Lyra was shaking. "Not men," she whispered. "Masks? Hunters?" That night, Adrian couldn't sleep. He sat awake, listening to every sound. The house groaned. The wind howled. But beneath it all, he felt eyes pressing against the walls, as if the darkness itself was watching. Ethan slept peacefully, holding the strange drawing of home. Lyra sat in the corner, her glowing eyes unblinking, guarding. Adrian knew the truth then. The chase had already begun. The hunters were not far. They were near, circling, waiting. And his home, the mansion he once thought untouchable, was no longer a place of safety. It was a cage, and the predators were outside. The next morning was quiet, too quiet. The sky hung heavy with gray clouds, and the air outside the mansion felt colder than it should. Adrian sat at the dining table, untouched coffee steaming in front of him. His mind was restless, filled with the knock on the door from last night and Lyra's fearful whisper, "Hunters." Ethan entered the room, rubbing his sleepy eyes but full of energy. Behind him walked Lyra, moving silently, her steps light as if she barely touched the ground. She still wore the same torn clothes, her hair messy, but her glowing eyes seemed sharper, more alert. Adrian couldn't wait any longer. "We can't keep living like this," he said firmly, his voice echoing in the room. "I need to know the truth, Lyra, not half of it, everything." Lyra froze. She looked at Ethan, then at Adrian. Her fingers tightened around the chair she was holding. For a long moment she said nothing. "Please," Adrian insisted, his voice lower now. "You're in my home. My son is involved. I need to know what we are facing." Lyra sat down slowly. Her face looked older than her years, as if she carried the weight of entire worlds. Finally she spoke. "I was a student," she began softly. "On my world we are taught from birth to serve the Circle. It is the Council that rules us. They tell us what to study, what to believe, how to live. For a time I obeyed." Her glowing eyes lowered. But then I began to ask questions. Questions they did not want to hear. Why must we always fight? Why must we conquer? Why must we silence those who dream of peace? Ethan listened, leaning forward with wide eyes. Adrian leaned back, frowning. "They called me weak. They said I was unfit. But weakness in their law is a crime. So they marked me. They sent hunters. They do not forgive. They do not forget. Anyone who runs must be erased." Her words sent a chill down Adrian's spine. He thought of the men at his door, their strange, smooth movements, their sharp eyes. "The hunters," he muttered. Lyra nodded. "They wear faces. They can look like you, like anyone. But inside they are shadows, servants of the Circle. Once they lock onto your scent, your thoughts, they will not stop until you are gone." Ethan's small voice broke the heavy silence. "But why come here? To Earth?" Lyra looked at him, her eyes softening. "Because this world is free. Your people argue, yes, but you can choose. You can question. You can dream without chains. I thought I could hide here just for a while. But I was wrong. They already search." Adrian's hands clenched. His mind raced. He had worked all his life to control risk, to protect his empire, his son. Now here was a girl, not even human, bringing danger to his very doorstep. And yet her voice carried no lies. She was broken, but not evil. "What do these hunters want with you now?" Adrian asked. "To make me disappear," Lyra whispered. "To show others what happens if you resist. To remind the Circle's children that no one escapes." The room grew colder. Adrian looked at his son, who now held Lyra's hand tightly. Ethan's young face was full of determination. "She's not bad, Dad, she's brave." She stood up to them. Ethan looked up at Adrian with pleading eyes. "We can't let them take her." Adrian felt torn again. Logic screamed to call someone, anyone, scientists, the government, the police. But his heart reminded him. Once the world knew, Lyra would become nothing but an experiment, a prisoner. She would be studied, locked away, maybe worse, and his son's trust would shatter. Lyra must have sensed his storm of thoughts because she whispered, "You should not have to suffer for me. If you wish, I will go tonight." Her voice carried no anger, only sadness. She was ready to leave, ready to face the hunters alone. Ethan jumped up, shaking his head. "No, you're my friend. If you leave, they'll hurt you." "You can't." He turned to Adrian. "Dad, don't let her go." Adrian's heart twisted. He saw his son's desperation, his hope. He saw Lyra's weary face, a face too young to carry such pain. And he knew deep down that sending her away would not save them. The hunters had already found this place. Whether she stayed or left, danger was near. Finally, Adrian spoke. His voice was heavy but steady. "If they're coming for you, then they'll have to come through me first." Lyra's eyes widened, glowing brighter for a moment. Ethan smiled, relief flooding his face. But even as Adrian spoke those brave words, he felt the weight of them press hard on his chest. He was no soldier, no warrior. He was a father, a man of business. And yet, in that moment, he chose something bigger than himself. Lyra whispered, almost to herself, "You don't understand what you've promised." Adrian looked at her, his jaw tight. "Maybe not, but I understand this. You will not face them alone." Outside, the wind howled against the windows. And far beyond the clouds, somewhere in the cold darkness of space, ships moved silent and steady, closing the distance to Earth. The truth was revealed. And with it, a new fear. The hunters were already near. The night was darker than usual. Clouds smothered the moon, and the wind carried an uneasy chill through the trees outside the mansion. Adrian checked every lock on the doors, every camera on the monitors. Still, his chest felt heavy. He knew it was only a matter of time. Ethan slept in his room upstairs, clutching a paper where Lyra had drawn a strange symbol of protection. Lyra herself sat by the window, her glowing eyes fixed on the darkness beyond the gates. She hadn't spoken for hours. Her stillness alone made Adrian nervous. Then the lights flickered. For one brief second, the mansion went black. When the power returned, Adrian's stomach dropped. Half the cameras were offline. The screens showed nothing but static. Lyra stood suddenly. "They are here." Adrian's blood froze. He grabbed his phone, ready to call the police, but Lyra shook her head. "It will not matter. They will not believe, and they will not stop." A sharp noise echoed from the back of the house, glass shattering. Adrian spun toward the sound. His pulse thundered in his ears. Lyra whispered one word, "Run." But Adrian did not run. He was a father and his son was upstairs. He could not abandon him. The footsteps came next, heavy, deliberate, echoing through the halls. Shapes moved in the shadows, tall figures sliding through the broken window. They looked human at first glance, suits, pale faces, but their movements were wrong. Too smooth, too silent. Their eyes glimmered faintly, reflecting light like an animal's. Ethan woke to the noise. He ran to the hall, frightened only to see one of the intruders standing at the end of the corridor. "Dad?" Ethan's voice shook. Adrian rushed up the stairs, grabbing his son and pulling him close. "Stay behind me." The figure tilted its head unnaturally, as if studying them. Then its mouth opened, but the words that came out were cold and flat. "Surrender the traitor." Lyra appeared at the top of the stairs, her silver glow brighter than ever. Her hands trembled, but sparks of light flickered between her fingers. She stood in front of Adrian and Ethan, her small body a shield. "You will not take them," she said firmly, her voice echoing with strange resonance. The hunters moved, too fast. One leapt forward, its hand stretching unnaturally long, reaching for her. Lyra raised her arms and a burst of blue energy shot out. The air cracked like thunder. The hunter was thrown back, smashing into the wall. Adrian's eyes widened. He had expected fear, weakness, but in that moment Lyra was something else. Not just a lost girl, but a force of power, though it was clear her strength was fading with each strike. Two more hunters entered, their faces expressionless, their eyes glowing faintly red. They moved toward the stairs. Adrian grabbed Ethan and pulled him into a side hallway. "This way." The mansion, once his sanctuary, now felt like a maze of danger. Doors slammed, shadows stretched, and every corridor seemed alive with threat. Adrian's heart raced as he led his son toward a hidden passage in the library, a narrow escape tunnel he had built long ago for safety, though never imagining it would be used for this. Lyra fought behind them, her sparks lighting the dark halls. Each blast shook the air, but with every strike her glow dimmed. She staggered, gasping, yet refused to fall. Adrian reached the library, pulling Ethan inside. He pressed against a shelf, revealing a narrow staircase leading downward. "Go, Ethan." Ethan hesitated. "What about Lyra?" Adrian's jaw tightened. "She's coming. Trust me." At that moment, Lyra stumbled into the room, her arms trembling. Behind her, shadows moved closer, the hunters advancing without fear. She looked at Adrian with urgent eyes. "Take him, hide." Adrian grabbed her arm, pulling her toward the passage. "Not without you," but Lyra shook her head. "They want me, not him. If I stay, they will follow. If I leave, they will hunt forever." Her words cut through him like a blade. He couldn't let her sacrifice herself. Not after everything Ethan had seen, not after everything she had given. No, Adrian growled. We stand together. He pulled both Ethan and Lyra into the passage, closing the shelf behind them just as the hunters entered the library. The hidden tunnel was narrow and cold, lit only by faint emergency lights. Adrian's breath came in sharp gasps, his arms tight around his son. Lyra leaned against the wall, glowing faintly, her strength nearly gone. From above, the hunters' voices echoed mechanical and inhuman. We will find you. You cannot hide. The words seeped through the walls like poison. Ethan shivered and clutched his father. Lyra closed her eyes, whispering something in her alien tongue, perhaps a prayer, perhaps a warning. The chase had only just begun. The mansion was no longer theirs. The hunters were inside, patient and unstoppable. And Adrian realized with horror that protecting his son, protecting Lyra, meant facing an enemy that was not only stronger, but far more determined than anything he had ever known. The secret passage felt colder with every step. The stone walls pressed close, and the low ceiling forced Adrian to bend as he guided Ethan through the narrow tunnel. Lyra stumbled behind them, her glow faint, flickering like a dying candle. Each breath she took sounded heavy, as though her strength was slipping away. Ethan held tightly to his father's hand. His other hand reached back, clinging to Lyra's thin fingers, refusing to let her fall behind. His young voice was a whisper, "Dad, where are we going?" Adrian's reply was sharp, though his heart trembled. Somewhere safe. Keep moving. But in truth, he knew the hunters would not stop. No door, no tunnel, no wall could hold them forever. The real question was not where they could hide, but how long. At the end of the passage, a heavy iron door opened into an underground garage. Dust covered the floor, and the smell of old oil hung in the air. Adrian had built this place years ago as a precaution, a hidden exit, an emergency escape. Never had he imagined using it for this. A father, his son, and an alien girl hunted by shadows. Lyra leaned against the wall, breathing hard. Her glow dimmed, leaving only her eyes shining faintly in the dark. They will not give up, she whispered. If you stay with me, you will never be free. Adrian turned to face her. His chest rose and fell with anger and fear. And if I let you go? They'll kill you. Her lips curved into the faintest, saddest smile. That is my burden, not yours. Ethan's voice cracked as he shouted, No! Don't say that. You're my friend. You can't just give up. He clung to her arm, tears forming in his eyes. The sight tore at Adrian's heart. His son had lost his mother young. Now, for the first time in years, Ethan had found someone to trust, to laugh with. And now that bond was about to be ripped away. Adrian closed his eyes, hearing his wife's voice in memory. A father's duty is not only to protect, but to love without fear. When he opened his eyes again, his decision was clear. No one is leaving, he said firmly. If they want you, Lyra, then they'll have to come through me. Through us. Lyra's eyes widened. You don't understand. These hunters, I don't care, Adrian interrupted. I've built businesses, fought enemies, lost people I loved. I will not let them take my son's friend. You are family now, and family stays together. The garage lights flickered. A hum filled the air. The ground trembled slightly as though something massive had descended above. Lyra's head snapped upward. Her glowing eyes widened in horror. They've called the ship, she whispered. Ethan gasped. A ship from space? The ceiling vibrated. Dust rained down. Outside, through the narrow cracks in the door, Adrian could see faint lights cutting through the night sky. Unnatural beams. Too steady to be helicopters, too sharp to be searchlights. The hunters were no longer just men in suits. They were something greater, something far more terrifying. Adrian's pulse thundered. His mansion, his wealth, his carefully built empire, all of it meant nothing now. What stood above them was a power beyond earth, beyond comprehension. Lyra stepped forward, her body shaking, her glow flickering. If I go to them now, they may leave this place. You will be safe. Adrian grabbed her arm. No, if you go, you die. If you stay, we fight. That's the choice, and I've made mine. For a moment, silence fell. Lyra stared at him as if unable to believe his words. Slowly, her eyes softened and she whispered, You are different. Humans are different. This is why I came here. Ethan looked at his father, then at Lyra. So what do we do? Adrian took a deep breath. His mind raced. He was not a soldier, but he had resources. Hidden exits, supplies, contacts who owed him favors. Yet even with all his wealth, could he fight shadows from the stars? He didn't know. But he knew one thing. Running was no longer enough. "We survive," Adrian said firmly. "We stand together. And whatever comes next, we face it." A deep rumble shook the ground. Outside, the lights grew brighter. A sound like thunder split the night. Metal tearing, engines roaring, but not from Earth. Lyra's glow returned faintly, her body trembling, but her spirit rising. She stood beside Adrian and Ethan, her small figure framed by courage she should not have had. The family of 3, one man, one child, one alien, stood together in the cold garage. Watching as the shadows closed in, Adrian tightened his arm around his son. His voice was steady, unshaken. "If they want war, then they've chosen the wrong family." Above them, the sky cracked with light as ships descended silently toward Earth. The real battle had not even begun.